Hello, y'all. You
Hello.
are, hey, I'm Lisa Kipps-Brown, your host for Adaptable Entrepreneurs. And I'm sorry, y'all, I've had a rough week. We did another matching gift card sale this week, and it has been crazy. I'm running on fumes. But our guests tonight are Travis Rohrer and Laura Johnston, who are business partners and husband and wife. And I think Travis is my long-lost cousin.
Why is that?
Because of your last name. I don't know if you even remember I told you that in Nashville.
Oh, that's right. Well,
Yeah.
you forgot my birthday last month.
Thank goodness my mother, well, that sounds terrible. I was going to say, if my mother were still alive, she would be getting your genealogy and figuring it out. But, anyway, I divert.
Genealogy is fun. Yeah, that's fun.
They are the owners of High Impact Leadership, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Want to make sure I say it correctly. But I'm going to let y'all introduce yourselves, tell your background, and tell everybody what your business actually does to get us started.
Cousin, do you want to start?
I'll go first since I'm cuz. So, Travis Rohrer. I was out of high school. I went and joined the Air Force right away. Went to college and fell back to, while I was going through college, at my family's trade, which was carpentry construction.
Oh, yeah.
I had a thriving construction business for 25 years. I had incredible highs, some really incredible lows, and then another deep, deep low that was, even more fun than that to go through. And the one thing that I've learned over the years is, I truly believe that organizational health and leadership, the humility that comes from being responsible for other people's livelihood, regardless of team size, regardless of background, regardless of any skill set you have to understand your people. You have to be able to communicate and actually give and receive communication. And I firmly believe that. Laura and I, we've been together now a little over 4 years. And I know. Yeah, but it's,
He still tolerates me.
Oh yeah, she's a keeper. Yeah, and it's just been a fun journey together. It wasn't happenstance. It was meant to be. Not in addition to her and I, but the path of leadership training and just the reflecting on everything I've learned from college to practicing it at work and growing an organization. Started out with 1 employee. At my peak, what did we have? We had 50.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a pile.
Yeah.
Going
25 full-time plus a whole bunch of.
Wow.
Yeah, and just trying to put that all together in a seamless fashion. It makes you, things that make you go, yeah, right.
Especially in an industry that's like this.
Yeah, and anyway, so that was enough of the construction stuff. And then when I really started digging back into leadership training, just for myself and trying to show up the best I possibly could, and really that's where the stem of it was from is, what can I do better? How can I do better? And so that started years ago. And then the natural transformation and progression, when she and I had the idea of starting this business a couple of years ago, it really resonated with us. And then we just dug our heels in really deep and sunk a lot of time and energy into personal development, education, and finding out what path best served us and our clients.
Okay, so Laura, let's hear your side of the story.
Well, for me, I've spent a lifetime in the organizational side. So always being a part of a team from that standpoint, not necessarily in leadership, but more in management.
Okay.
And so I've seen the pitfalls of teams that don't connect and aren't aligned, and leaders that don't necessarily show up in a way that is beneficial for their team and gives them the right vision and focus. And so I fell in love with, leadership training, and for myself and for our team that I was operations in his construction company. And I love all of the little tools and platforms that we've kind of happened into. Like you said, it was meant to be, and we are loving this journey for sure.
That's so cool, and I love that you came about the idea of starting the business based on what you were already doing, but also just what you were drawn to, that part of it. I have a question that I think a lot of people probably don't really understand the difference between management and leadership.
Oh, wow.
So
We love this question.
That's actually a beautiful question, because leadership is being able to, with purpose, with empathy, and with perspective, be vulnerable enough to let somebody fail forward. Let managers do their job. I'll give you an example. For example, what happens is people get promoted. They do a great job at one thing. They get promoted to another thing. Now they're a leader of what they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't quite figured out how to either pass on the knowledge. They haven't wanted to let go of that reign because it was something they were highly skilled at.
Yeah.
Becoming a leader is a much different skill set than being a manager. Being a manager, is put me on a construction job site as the organizer of that, and I can manage that easily.
Yeah.
Take me out of that position, put me in the leadership role of teaching somebody how to do what I did, was not easily communicated to me. I was not able to transition into that very well.
Okay.
Initially, that did change. So I don't know if I skipped over your question, but
one of the things, like Simon Sinek says, the leader is in charge of the people who are in charge of doing the thing. Like, so they're not in charge of the customer, they're in charge of the people who are in charge of the customer. So, like he said, in management, if you don't pass on that skill set to those who you're leading, right? So being able to step back, be the person who has the vision, and take care of those people so that they can do their job the best they can do it. Having
the courage to be able to say, wow, and with empathy, say that was not the outcome I was looking for, try again, instead of coming in a hustle trying to hurry up and fix it for them. So it's really having the patience to let people grow into what their potential is, recognizing that potential, nurturing that potential. It's a big difference between leadership and management.
I was curious if you see people thinking that management is, okay, everybody's doing their thing, everybody has a job to do, and they're doing it, but versus really taking charge, and as you said, more vision, leadership by example and vision, and instead of down in the weeds. Do you see much of do y'all deal with that very much in your business?
We do, and we like, it's interesting. We've been working for a guy with this guy for the last year, and he uses a press box analogy, and he's an ex-football player, and it's interesting as he talks about being at the line of scrimmage, which he was actually a line of scrimmage player, and his vision of what's going on right there. His job is so focused, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
You've practiced, do this. It's like, put the widget in the box, there's that level. And there's the 10-foot view of this coach, and there's the press box view of this, and there's the 10,000-foot view. So I think to give it a proper analogy, it's just different elevations of view and the scope in which you get that view to really determine which hat am I wearing today.
That's a great analogy. I think too many of we business owners stay at the scrimmage line, or at the very least on the sidelines, not up in the press box, and definitely not up in the blimp in the air. And I know I'm guilty of that. I always say, and part of it is because I'm a perfectionist and I guess kind of OCD, but if I get down in the weeds, I cannot get out. If I can stay up here, I'm good. Well, but if I have to swoop down, I can't get back out.
I'm starting to think we are cousins, because I'm a tad bit OCD myself.
That's you too, entrepreneurs, right? So nobody can take care of their baby the way that they can take care of it. And so passing that on, I was a mother, so same thing in whether it's in life or in business. Allowing other people to grow in those positions, being able to step back and realize that we're not the only ones who can do it. There are other people, and then recognizing their talents, right, and giving them opportunities to grow, and not, you might bring someone onto the team who you have a vision of what role they're going to fill, but you kind of have to step away from even that and see where their true skill set is, where you can utilize them in other ways, and always be open to that mindset of growth.
Well, and think about leadership too. Here's a crazy perspective too, is when you like myself, I'll say I had a construction company that was, high-end custom homes. That's what I did. So it was like me, site soup, a couple construction guys, and then the guys you deal with. So just a handful of people that are really close to you. And then next thing you know, I took a chance and I grew my business exponentially. And now I'm dealing with stuff that I can't even talk to those people anymore. So the point is, leadership is a very lonely place.
Yeah.
Where I was once comfortable and they trusted me to always be there for them, I quickly became unavailable, not because of lack of want or desire to stay connected, but then when you try then to come back to that level, it really diminished who I was growing to become in the eyes of the people I was working for. So it's like, am I one of the guys or am I the leader?
Exactly.
So it's a delicate balancing act of how do you play, how do you grow into the next position? And here's a simple truth. The higher you go on the ladder, the less truth you're going to hear, especially about yourself. So
yes, very much so.
Well, and the baseline to any team or organization is trust. So that's a hard one to navigate, especially when you're growing and getting that position of the next level.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about creating a space where people can feel comfortable giving feedback, honest feedback, about the leader as well as their own performance. You have to have an open dialogue. So often there's not enough communication, even in your direct reports. So.
Yeah, Laura, like with her team building stuff, and now I'm gonna skip over to communication. She likes crowdsourcing information, and I really believe in that as well.
All the best ideas I've got have been from people on my team. I have no problem going to my team, but like I said, I've spent my life in teams, so I realize and recognize the value of when you get that collective, group think, how innovative you can be.
My experience with that has been your best ideas come out then, because even if you have a great idea, once somebody else hears it, it generates an idea from them, and then they're in it, and it's just like a ping pong ball, and it goes back and forth, and before you know it, it's become something that you probably never ever would have thought of by yourself. Yeah. And I love that about it, because it's like everybody's brains are connected and we're feeding off of each other. But I'm not used to working in like the formal team environment, because it's been 30 years. I don't even remember. The last time I worked in a big corporation was 86. I did work for a software company in the mid-90s for a couple of years, but I was the U.S. controller, but our office only had like 5 people in it. So that wasn't really the same thing. So I come from a way different background than you, Laura. So my teamwork is more less formal, because it's not like, okay, here's the department and we're in a meeting. More free-flowing, more dynamic, but still the same thing.
Well, and just think about the dynamic of, like you said, more free flow and dynamic versus, just here's your marching orders. My background from the military was do this, no questions asked. I don't care if it's dig a hole here, put that dirt back in the hole and call it a day. You do stuff just because, and whether it makes sense or not, so did I have my own collective buy-in to this decision because it's the biggest waste of time I ever could foresee, or you just do it because you're doing your thing? Whereas when you're crowdsourcing and you're taking everybody's perspective and molding it, like you said, to an idea that manifested itself into something that you really didn't think, even if it wasn't somebody's primary idea or primary objective, with collective weigh-in, there's going to be collective buy-in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
everybody feels like they're more of a part of it, and they can take pride in it, and feel that ownership. Just kind of contribution, whether or not even their perspective was even utilized. If they feel heard and valued, again, there's more buy-in.
Yeah, for sure.
What size companies do y'all work with mostly?
Well, mostly small businesses. We, entrepreneurs, golf. We work with a golf course, so there's multiple management layers, and
it's not just a golf course. It's actually a country club.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And that doesn't, not to like, oh, it's a country club. It's not that. It was actually shocking to me when we got in there and started working with the organization. It's like, man, my perspective was, it's the golf course, so let's work
Yeah.
with the team. Oh no, it's a
Like,
You
restaurant.
don't think about the groundskeepers and all the different
They
layers.
run a restaurant. They run a hospitality division, catering event. They have the office management. They have, like you said, the grounds. They have building. It's like, I think it was like we identified 8 individual business structures within that one thing,
Wow.
each of which has interplayed personalities and who work across multi-teams. It really got, I don't want to say complicated because that's not the truth. It was simple how seamless people were able to switch hats, if you will.
Okay.
And that was really fun to watch and witness. And, we were really fortunate with that particular engagement. It's about at its conclusion just because of the sequence of events, that the program has run its course. And the general manager who we were working directly with, really walked into it open-minded, ready to play full out. And it didn't take a lot to establish a great deal of rapport and trust. And for him to, what I think is the most important decision of leadership and management is vulnerability, of being completely open and aware and receptive to constructive criticism. He heard some negative things.
That's great.
He handled it.
Yeah, he was kind of the perfect client.
It was like, wow, man.
That's really good.
This is, I'm trying to focus a little bit on dental practices just because that's some of my background, and that's a size team I love too, because you a lot of times have multiple practices. So not only are you dealing with the functionality of the team within that practice, but how they are functioning across, multiple locations and multiple practitioners. And so it's been fun growing that side.
Yeah. And we also do some training with individual HR departments. So even if it's an organization, 100 plus people, and they have teams, the ideal team size for, particularly one of our platforms is 10 to 12 people. So if they have 10 to 12 people in multiple divisions, it really doesn't matter how big the company is. It's about
taking, the word team really means more like 8 or 6 or 5 to 12, right?
Okay.
You report to on a regular basis. It's not like the whole organization is a team. It's this group that is accountable to each other, that is on common projects and whatnot. So those individual teams, getting them cohesive, and then being aligned with the vision of the company, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do y'all think has been the thing that has surprised you the most about since you started this business, whether it's the type of clients you're working with or something that came out of the work or something that you like to do, anything that's surprised you?
I would say the thing that has surprised me the most is two things. One is not really being prepared to grow their team, right? So they, especially with entrepreneurs and small businesses, they don't really have systems around their hiring. I was really lucky that I learned a process. It actually started, where it started for me was Gary Keller and the career visioning process, where you hire to a system where you really get to know that person. Like for me, I went through about 7 layers of that hiring process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's just a really beautiful process that really puts the right person in the right position. You hear that all the time, but it's really important. Having a bench of people where you're always just kind of looking for talent, because if you run across that right person, you might create a place for them.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I think the worst part of it, honestly, is having the training and descriptions and expectations and then following through on those. So a lot of times you have people in their position, they don't really even meet with their direct reports on a regular basis. They kind of have a list of tasks they're doing. And does it really connect to the vision of the organization or the vision of the project?
Or even their own advancement. If they have if an individual, as most people would, have advancement goals and they have a job description, well, just like in a construction site, people fuss about change orders.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that happens to a person on a team that's outside their job description. That should be a change order to the organization. It's like if there's scope creep going on, if they're expected to do more, but not compensated anymore, and in the same amount of time, it's like, well, that has a value. And if there's not one-on-one meetings regularly, if there's not a clear expectation and communication and feedback allowed to say, hey, I'm doing, more for the team. I could see myself doing, a different position. It really comes down to trust. And when I say trust and the communication is, there's two types of trust: predictive trust and vulnerability-based trust. That's basically the two. Predictive trust is simply you've been with somebody for a long time, and if I told you it's a story, I could guess how you're possibly going to react to me.
Okay.
I'm going to predict that level of trust with us. We've built enough rapport, and then there's that. The vulnerability-based trust is having a safe enough place in your organization and have a culture in place enough, regardless of your organization size, to say, hey, I messed up, I screwed up, I'm sorry, I need help with this, or I'd really like an employee review to tell me how I'm doing with these things because I feel like I'm exceeding my expectations. Let's talk about that. And being able to go in there, it's basically coming in with an open platform to be able to speak freely and candidly without repercussion and have an empathetic ear. It doesn't need to be empathy. It's empathy and perspective. So if the leader or the manager then has perspective from that position, then I think that's a good place to be, is that safe zone, as we could call it. And and it's interesting as I keep using the word empathy and vulnerability almost interchangeably. And if somebody's falling short, it's much different imagine the manager coming in and saying, wow, you're not reaching your numbers, we're going to have a hard discussion here coming up. Or the manager coming in and saying, is everything okay? Can you see feel the difference of that impact? And if you can, and if we can effectuate that kind of just communication change, it's the same situation. Nothing has really changed. It's just now the person feels warm, welcome, and trusts their manager that they have their back.
Yeah.
It's a great example.
Yeah, I love that. So can you give us some other examples? I have to say, I think I'm a good leader, but I don't think I'm a good manager. I know I'm not a good manager. So if I can be up here, but I can't be the person that is working with the people that are that has to be in touch with all that stuff. And that probably sounds contradictory, but I know that's
why that's why there's a C-suite, and that's why there's a managerial level, and that's why there's a staff. And, in large organizations, if you have a small organization, it still is true. I mean, even if it's a practitioner, so give a dental office for instance, and you have a practitioner who is the leader of his organization, but he is also kind of down in the weeds with these guys because he's trying to, or be in the organizational level as well. Really, if he has an incredible practice manager who he communicates with her, so he's not down here, but then can converse with the staff.
Yeah.
So that they know that he's connected, but he shouldn't be doing the management stuff of that.
Yeah.
Right? It should be the next layer, the next tier. So even in small businesses, you can have that level, and knowing that you're great at the vision, knowing that you're great at that stuff. I would say that, our organization is pretty small. We have a team of 4. So we have, I feel like I'm really good in the organizational, but I also really like the vision, but I'm not necessarily, even though I'm great in the organizational, I don't know that I'm the best manager because I just really like to make everybody happy and some.
I like that too.
Well, what's really interesting about what she just said is that really comes back to at the end of the day, you have to understand your people through and through. And we have a catchphrase that I really like. It's connecting leaders with teams by humanizing the workplace. And I take that to heart. We take assessments on ourselves and understand. Laura and I's relationship has done nothing but blossom since we've actually taken our own assessments, read them, and say, wow, that's why you react like that. You're actually not a crazy person. Okay.
Well, maybe she is, but she has an excuse, right?
Right. So
I will not say that I'm not a crazy person, but at least he knows how to deal with my crazy now.
That's right. Yeah, he knows how to adapt. He's empathetic.
There you go.
Well, and even think about, even from a relationship standpoint. So here we are in leadership training, and we have a relationship, and yes, we say things to one another sometimes that are hurtful and mean. not because of anger or spite. It's just how I'm venting something. But she trusts me enough to know that I'm not going to intentionally say something to hurt her feelings. And she gives me, I'm not going to say it's a blatant pass. It's like, hey, dude, that sucked to hear. But it's more of she knows that I'm coming from an empathetic place or whatever. This is how I'm venting with a particular subject.
Yeah.
And likewise, if I got my toes stepped on for some particular reason, because it happens in relationships, with the knowledge of there is no way she'd ever want to intentionally hurt me, and just wash that one out. And then it's like, now what is she really saying to me? And then I guess that's the thing with teamwork as well. When you're with somebody, if you can get to the point of like, really, what's their struggle? What's going on really, instead of just being like, at the water cooler.
Well, it's that conflict continuum, right? Where's the camera? So you have this end where you're this end.
I think
it's hard to know which way to go. You go the opposite way.
On one side, you have where you just do whatever it takes to, keep things smooth. You're not going to rock the boat. Yeah. And on the other side, you're, intentionally mean, right? So we don't want to be either of those extremes. We want to fall somewhere in the middle. And you can't fall in the middle of that continuum without sometimes crossing over, right? So you have to know that the person cares about you enough, that your team cares about you enough, your manager cares about you enough, that sometimes we're going to cross over either way. And it's completely okay that we can have conversations around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have y'all had to, now I know, Laura, in your work before, and in your work owning the construction company, I'm sure you have, but in owning this company and working with your clients, have you had to help any of your clients with like some really touchy situations, like to work through some problems?
Oh,
and
yeah.
You don't have to say anything like that where a client would feel like you're giving them up or whatever, but can you give us some advice from some of those things?
Well, I think anytime that you have potential of leading somebody that you do not get and they're not happy, their career goals may not be able to be met. And also you think that maybe they don't belong on the team. So whenever you have that situation happening, and that happens. And so actually bringing in some dialogue and some different wording, I think that understanding the ways people speak, whether it be, whether they're speaking from a visual place or an auditory place, understanding even the basics around communication, which we love. And so we love coaching to that and helping people ask the right questions and present themselves differently. But then the other part of that is the perspective of, you might have filters around why you think that person is doing what they're doing. So getting rid of those filters, really, identifying, chunking it down.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And those are those aha moments for even the leader. And we love it, right? Because it's exciting when you can mend relationships, because it was around nothing really. It was just perspectives that weren't real.
It was feedback is a direct result of communication. So if you're getting some back, it's negative feedback, it's trust, rapport, it's all those things. So like Laura said, there has been some situations where we've had to dig deeper and ask more questions. It's like, what's really going on here? And walk them into a situation, because if it's my idea, it's never going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
You have to make what questions and make it their idea. And
it's the same thing with them and their people. They
Mm-hmm.
can learn from y'all that if they ask the questions instead of just telling,
I love asking questions. And that's one of the things when I started into this, whether it was in my work, but especially as a mother, man, if I could go back in time, I would have asked a lot more questions and helped guide them to their own realization, right? Because
the reason I'm laughing, I have to tell you a funny story of my son, because I tried that. He was in trouble for something, and I was trying to, do what the books say, and I was like, now, what do you think your punishment should be? And he goes, I don't know. How am I supposed to know? I'm just a kid. You're the grown up. You tell me. And I was like, okay, well, there's that out the window.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't the question to ask. And luckily, I don't think I ever asked that one.
I know, really. I was like, okay, that didn't work. Anyway, the minute you said that, it's like I had a flashback to when he was like 4 years old. He's 32 now, so.
Yeah, well, I've got mine out of the house fairly successfully too. But all that I've learned from my coaching experience has really actually improved my relationships with my daughters, and asking them questions and listening more to their perspectives, and finding out, how we can connect better. It's been a really cool process for me professionally and personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're talking about really communicating.
Right.
Yes.
Figuring out what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So when a client first hires y'all, are they typically hiring you because they already have a problem that they're trying to solve, or and I'm sure it's a mixture, or are they more like, we just want to be the best we can be, or what?
Yeah, you said it, both of those. It could be some gaps they're recognizing in their organization. Sometimes it's just they want to get themselves to the next level. Sometimes I've had outreach where I thought it was more for management training, and ended up it was really an HR teaching and coaching to hiring and training. So.
And then also we've done some free lunch and learns where we give a little talk presentation on basically the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team or something.
Okay.
And there's a need identified in that. And it's like, well, and the discussion happens. And we have, yes, we have lots of products and services, and there's not one size fits all.
That's the cool part of it though, right?
Yeah.
I know, that's why you don't get bored.
Right.
Because everything's different. Yeah.
For sure. And, sometimes they reach out and they don't even really know why they're reaching out. They know that there's a gap, but they don't have the self-reflection or organizational reflection to really identify it. And so that's where, again, asking questions to, all of the different accountability models, whether it be their org, their budget, their, what are the other ones? I'm having a brain cramp. But anyway.
Lead generation,
lead generation, how they're doing their sales.
Okay, so y'all even get into that, not just, okay.
I love process and systems. So a lot of times around team related things, I end up in conversations around how can we get to better and more efficient processes.
Yeah. So what's interesting is, so I think you knew that Laura and I are both neuro-linguistic programming practitioners. So language pattern, language skills.
Oh, okay.
Through that and a couple other platforms, we've put together a 5-step sales process. So even if it's real estate, mortgage, auto sales, does not matter. If you sell something, here's a 5-step sales process, and in a manner in which to explain your services, what you're doing, establishing value. And at the end of the day, what you want is the quick no, frankly.
It's favor and tell me no, so I can say we can both save time and keep going.
And move on, next task. And then Laura is working really hard on and it's ready to go now. It's a high impact follow-up system, and it's fantastic. So to increase your overall revenue throughout the year. So
honestly, Lisa, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's all about learning about people, understanding where they're coming from, how what you offer can impact their lives in a good way. If not, move on. But it's relationships. I did not know that. I'd never really been in sales. Like I said, I've always been in operations. So I was really excited when I learned that sales wasn't just trying to shove something down someone's throat.
Yeah.
When I recognized that it really is about relationships, it's about understanding yourself and your client and how you can communicate better. I was like, wow, okay, this I can do.
Yeah, I'm like you. I used to, when I was younger, I was like, I hate sales because you think of it as the pushy person who's trying to sell you something that you don't need or want, so sales is really not a good word probably. Yeah. But our first business, we started it before Tom had retired from the Navy. I started it, and I had 2 babies and an Alzheimer's patient that I was caring for at the same time. And I just started by making phone cold calls because it was the only way I could do it with all that. But I quickly realized, man, this is fun because I'm offering them something that helps them, that nobody else can bring them. This was 1990. So that was the first time that I really realized that sales is not selling something, not talking somebody into buying something that they don't want or need or convincing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's communicating, letting them know the benefits, the values. And if they don't see it, that's fine. Go on to the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a hard one for me to really recognize until I got into trying to sell myself, really, right? Because we were selling our business in a new and a different way for me. And it's just been a lot of fun too. And I just kind of went, I can just talk to people like, this is my area of expertise. Does that sound like something you could benefit from?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. We're big fans of Simon Sinek. I'm sure you've heard of him. Yeah, and it's interesting as, you know, he gives a speech and he actually apologizes for his line of work, which is, you know, leadership training, et cetera, to even have a need. It's like, we all know what we should be doing. And the fact that there is a need for it, it's like, well, there is a value to it, but it's like, we shouldn't even have this problem today. We know too much. And it's just interesting. We get stuck in ruts and we're not even about educating. It's more about reminding of good behaviors. And
True.
Yeah.
I think we all have learned it in time, but life has a way of taking over, and business has a way of getting stressful. And you know, just like in anything else, whether it be your health or your business or you know, your relationships, kind of going back to those basics and getting back those good habits and good reminders.
Well, I want to talk with y'all about making the transition, you know, from you working in the corporate environment and Travis owning the construction business and moving in, deciding, hey, let's take this leap, let's start this business. And I want to talk about that because I'm just really interested in people who do change their life, figure out this is, you know, and just because, and I come from the belief that it should be changing all the time anyway, even if it's the same business, it should always be changing. So let's talk about that, how y'all decided to make the leap and what you were feeling like, you know, how, you know, were you afraid? What kind of tips you have for other people?
Well, for me, it was just a huge relief. It was a relief for me as I started out building a house or two a year in Great Falls, Montana. You know, the values of homes there are much different back at, like, this was 1995 that this started. So the value.
You're in Washington State, is that right?
We're in Washington State now, yeah. So in 1995, I'm out of the military. I'm doing, you know, college. It's like, I'm gonna go build houses. It's kind of, I was a lead carpenter for a guy, and you know, me and my smart aleck self. Anyway, long story short, he got fired in the job that I was working on. I got hired to finish it. So I guess, like, I'll get a contractor's license. I'll go do that. You know, I knew how to build and stuff. Running a business was like, you know, I'm in college and, you know, playing rugby and screwing around doing that life. And next thing you know, it's like, oh my goodness, now I've got employees. Now I've got people to care for. And so I go from, like, what I think I had 2 employees that first couple of years. It's like, it's really small, just, you know, really, really small. And so my annual revenue was, you know, $500,000 a year, maybe, to in 2017, 18, it was about 15 million.
Wow.
And that growth, when I decided to switch and move into a commercial aspect, it grew, it blew up. And don't get me wrong, it was fun. The money was flowing nicely. It was really good for that. But the stress and the pressure was eating me alive. Yeah. And it was truthfully, is like, if I'd have stayed doing that, which was an option, we wouldn't have survived, and it was eating me up, and I was burnt out.
I can understand that.
So for me, it was just a sheer case of burnout. I mean, I dabble a little bit now. I got a buddy that needs a bathroom done. It's like, okay, I'll go help you out.
Well, that's fun stuff. But when you're talking about those big projects, and when you do reach that level, you got to keep it going. You got to keep it flowing, because then you've got the higher overhead and the more people.
Right.
And you know what I did? You know what I didn't do? What? I didn't hire the right talent in the team.
That's what I was just gonna say.
and she can speak to it. I hired out of necessity.
Yeah.
Because I needed a body.
Yeah.
And I didn't seek out the right person. I mean, even, you know, I had one of my head superintendents who was with me, really came to work for me. I think it was 1998. We worked together for 20 years. And I tried to put that square peg in a round hole to put him in a position that I wanted him to be good at, and he just wasn't.
Yeah.
And he wasn't talented, because, you know, he's an immensely talented guy, immensely talented. Not at that. Not what I tried to get him to do. And no more so than I was immensely talented at going from 3 to 50 in an hour, it felt like. And it's interesting as having enough, you know, self-reflection time, enough humility, and enough personal growth and development to know, man, I really bunked that up. You know, that was bad. You know, and life lessons and good. But it's like, but I'm where I'm at now for a reason, because this is what I want to be doing. I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about organizational health. I'm passionate about helping people communicate. I'm passionate about helping people increase their bottom line. I'm actually coaching to one of the guys that I trained as a carpenter, and he came to work for me, and I want to say 98 or 99. He's a young kid, and not anymore. He's got a son that is the same age as him when I started training him.
Wow.
And his name is Ken, and by trade I'm a master carpenter. It's like one of those old school hand cut kind of guys, and Ken's skilled. He has blown by me miles.
Wow.
As far as a skilled carpenter goes, one, because he's more practiced and young and can still move, and I'm an old doddering guy. But frankly, what I'm coaching him to more than anything is don't give away his talents for nothing. And
so he owns his own business now.
Yeah, he does, and I'm teaching him on how to communicate with the customer in a manner that's going to yield him the best possible outcome. Not to take advantage of anybody, but to be treated fairly.
I think that's a problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have, especially when you're in the service industry. If you're selling a product, it's so much easier because here's the thing, here's what it's worth. They can look at it, they want it or they don't. Right. But when it's a skill and an expertise, even if you really, really know that you know your stuff, it's just, it's harder for people to understand how to price themselves.
Yeah. Well, especially in the trades. Man, I have a really soft spot for the trades. I think it's a dying art. I think Mike Rowe, with what he's doing, and Mike Rowe works.
I love what he's doing.
That guy is a national treasure, and he's on my bucket list. I just want to shake his hand.
Ryan, well, you haven't met Ryan. Colin Garrett, the NASCAR driver that I work with. Ryan was in Vegas at the Speakeasy with us, but he and Colin have met Mike Rowe. Oh. Yeah, at an event up in DC. I love him. I love what he's doing. And, we're around the same age. And I remember like when growing up, and by the time I went to college, it had become, if you didn't go to college, you're a loser, that whole mindset. And even if you went to community college, or you only got out of community college, and everybody was being pushed to to 4-year schools, whether they should be there or not, whether the degree was worth anything, whether they had the fit for it. And so we all know what happened there is we pretty much lost all of our skilled trades people, craftsmen, and now we're having to dig ourselves out. And, I know people that come out of college and can barely make a living. I know other people that while they're still in community college, they're making $80,000 a year as welders and stuff while they're still in school, and the companies are paying for their school while they're paying them.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how that ended up like that. And
it is interesting that you say some of that's knowing yourself. So one of the intelligent leadership platforms we also try to get is emerging leaders. And part of that process is their own awareness. Like, what are your values? What are you interested in? Where is it you really want to see yourself, and make them go through that. Yeah. And hopefully less people will be in, careers that they don't want to be in if they really would stop and evaluate what their value system is, what their beliefs are, and are they aligned with the career that they're forcing themselves into.
Yeah, right. The Emerging Leader Program that Laura just mentioned, it's the first class is launching January 5th.
Oh.
And it's basically, we have the high level executive leadership for the C-suite people. It's literally the same program, a little chunk down, because it's just so condensed and you can't do it all.
Yeah.
But it's the same platform, the same awareness, the same everything, just to give them really, we want to give everybody the opportunity to really open up their mind to, who am I?
Yeah. And we're not given the opportunity to do that when we're growing up, when we're going to school, whatever. It's more, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right. And I was probably early 30s before I even realized it's not just what you like and what you don't like, but it's why you like and don't like it. And like, my degree is in accounting. I'm really, really good at it. I love numbers. I love solving problems. I don't like repetitive tasks. I obviously like to be around people who are verbose, and we like to have fun. So an accounting job, really typically the departments aren't like that. My first job, I was an auditor. I'm a middle child. I want everybody to be happy. I don't get a thrill by going out and trying to find somebody doing something wrong. And then I went into a big corporation, but I was bored to death there because I only got to see a tiny piece of the pie. I didn't get to see everything, everything fit together. So, through this process, as I got older, everything started making sense to me. Why like this? Why, all those things. And I dropped my CPA license when I discovered the internet. Like, one of the guys that I worked with at the company that I was the controller for, I had a sideline business doing business consulting. He's like, "Oh, you ought to add web design." I'm like, "No way," because of course I'm of the age that computer programming was Fortran, doing the punch cards and sitting in line. Oh my gosh, that was awful. Hated it. But he piqued my interest enough to start piddling, and I'm like, this is great, because it's like solving little problems. And back then you had to do everything in a text editor, but I could upload it and immediately know if it worked. So my impulsive behavior, if you will, but it was still solving problems, and I didn't know I was creative really until then. Because I used to think that creativity was painting and things like that. I didn't realize that ideas are creativity. So
I love that you said that.
That's one of the things that when I talk with young people now, kids, about what they want to do, they'll come and ask me questions. What should I study? And I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Study. And I'm sure a lot of people disagree with this, but my opinion is, you know what? Probably whatever you're going to end up doing is not what you go to school for anyway. And whatever you end up doing may not even exist. Like with me, I couldn't have known I wanted to do it because, it wasn't there. I couldn't have done it.
Right.
But I've
sent my kids to a lot, instead of so much schooling, a few more of like a speakeasy where they met lots of people in different industries and got to explore a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great, because the typical kid, I was great at accounting. I passed the CPA exam without studying. But I was like, why am I in this? Well, it just didn't fit me at all.
Yeah.
Even though I was good at it, it didn't fit me.
Yeah, young do not have a chance to explore enough.
Yeah.
There's so many expectations placed on them.
Yes.
So I do think that if we could give them a little bit more space, I love the idea of working with these emerging leaders and finding out where their passions are and kind of, putting aside what everybody else thinks they should do and just really focusing on themselves for a bit. I'm really excited about that.
Well, and if you're doing it in a company, that provides such a great service to that company, because if they can set aside feeling challenged, like, oh, this person might, jump over me or whatever, because y'all know how a lot of managers are. They don't want somebody that's too smart. But if people can put aside their ego, it's such a wonderful thing, because I look at it as encouraging entrepreneurs, encouraging the entrepreneurial mindset within the company.
Yes, thank you.
Well, what's interesting, Lisa, you just said something, that managers don't want people that are too smart.
Yeah.
They should want people that are too smart.
Exactly.
They should want that on their teams. They should want people that are smarter than them in every task they're overseeing, simply because that's going to be the best for the organization, not the. Why would you want a C player on an A team to do a B job?
I hope everyone I hire is smarter than me.
Yeah.
And the role that they are meant to play. And that is a very small mindset.
Yeah, I am not my brilliance at all. I just like I
he's not threatened by me, even though I'm way more brilliant than him.
That is true.
So let me ask you this. Y'all mentioned some tools that y'all were working on. I know that you typically have clients and you work with the clients, but do you have any tools, like if there's a small business or a solopreneur out there, do you have any type of tools that people can go on your website and take or download or pay or?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked, because part of the pivot of last year, right, is becoming able to be more present digitally. And so we are offering all of the little bits that we talked about. We have webinars and workshops that are available on a monthly basis so that they can dig in. We also are providing all kinds of little irresistible offers that they can digital downloads and things like that. And so we hope to provide a lot of value for those that are seeking it online, as well as an engagement.
And so you probably have some things that they can do for free.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And then some things that they pay if they want to do, like maybe it's a workshop or whatever.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell them the website to go to, and me.
Okay, so the website is highimpactleadership.us.
Okay.
There's an events page on there with lots of, the events include the free stuff as well, so check that out. We'll be doing, starting in the new year, this guy and I, we're going to be doing a couple of different things a week where we do a coffee chat with Q&A. And then we are also doing live interviews with amazing people like you who are really smart, and we can help add value to people's lives through the same kind of interaction. And then, of course, webinars. And
that's great.
Yeah, interviews like this too. It's like, the dialogue around today may not have resonated with half the audience, and that's okay. If two people or
that's
one,
right. That's the way I look at it. I don't really care how big the audience is. And to be honest, not that many people watch my shows live, partly because of the time of the day, partly because I don't push it, partly because whatever, it doesn't matter. But they're up there forever, and I have them in different places, and people come back later. And I'm really surprised at the people who contact me. I don't even know they're watching, and they've been going and watching every one, and they're like, oh my God, I love your shows. Thank you so much. So y'all are going to really enjoy that. That makes me feel really good to know that when we're talking, help people. Plus, you end up learning. Everybody that you love to learn something from.
Yeah.
So for sure. Well, we sure appreciate being a part of your show. I've watched many of yours as well.
Thank you.
I love the gal who, I think she was making, was it dressing? She was.
Oh yeah, mud sauce. It's sauce. Yeah, Charlinda. Yeah, her grandfather's. Yeah, she actually was just selected to be one of the sharks. I think it is, and I think she's a shark in the military Shark Tank. I think she's one of the sharks, not like one of the people, because she actually went to Shark Tank.
Right, I remember.
Yeah. She is so cool. Her products are great. I love her story, her grandfather and all that. And so, yeah, I'll have to tell her how much y'all liked it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, so go shout out to Lisa. Go back and watch because you got some good stuff.
Oh, thanks. I've already been shout out to her. Okay, thanks.
And hey, are we going to see you in San Diego in January?
Yes, I was going to tell the audience, in case y'all are wondering how we know each other, we met in Nashville at Steve Sims Speakeasy, which is awesome. I love those because you just get to go. Personally, I like the time of all of us just getting to know each other.
Yeah, I love that too.
I love that part. And then, of course, you also find lost family members.
Yeah. Hey, you missed my birthday last month.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Doggone. Okay, I will mail your gift tomorrow.
Thank you.
I really appreciate y'all being on here, and we need to do something next year together. I want to talk with y'all about maybe doing some kind of virtual conference, because I have some really cool software that we can have breakout rooms and like tables and stuff.
I would love that.
We would love to. Now, you're in Florida, right?
No, I'm in Virginia. I used to be in Florida. I lived in Florida for 15 years, but I grew up in Virginia, and we moved back up here in the early 2000s to be close to my mom in case she needed us. And thankfully we did, because she ended up with Alzheimer's, and Tom and I cared for her for the last 4 years of her life. That was the worst time ever in my business. And that's when I made a terrible, terrible hiring decision. Somebody who's very talented, and I thought could do the job that was needed because it was somebody I knew, but could not do the job that was needed. And I literally spent the last 6 months of my mother's life keeping my business from going under.
Yeah.
So, people need to understand it doesn't matter how much you think you know somebody. You really, really have to understand what to look for, what to ask.
Mhm.
And I think the average small business owner doesn't.
Well, and oftentimes you think, like you said, you think you know them, and then you end up trusting them without those regular check-ins. So those regular check-ins are so, so important.
Yeah, well, and I have to say that because I know that I'm one of these people that it's not because I don't trust people, but it's just like I said earlier, if I start getting into something, it's hard for me to pull back. So I know I'm like that, and I know I'm not a good manager. So once I hired him and my son and daughter worked for me, well, almost immediately they started complaining, but I was like, I really thought that it was because they were not happy with the disruption. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Sorry, I'm your boss. You don't talk to me anymore. You go to this person. So I'm going to be honest. I ignored warning signs, true warning signs, because I thought my shortcomings as a manager, I forced myself, what I saw as my shortcomings as a manager, I forced myself to go against my better judgment because I thought, I have to do this. Anyway, it was awful. And, but I learned from it. So whatever,
learning journey.
That is the important thing.
Yeah. I just wish that I hadn't had to spend the last 6 of my mother's life like that. But, at least I did get to care for her. I lived with her for her last 4 years. Poor Tom lived by himself. I lived with Mama, and, and then after she passed away, I moved back home. And
that's tough duty.
That is.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate both of y'all so much. And yes, 5 minutes ago, you asked me before I went on my tangent. Yes, I do plan to be in San Diego if they let us come in. I don't know if California is. I told Tamara, though, I told Tammy girl, I don't know if y'all saw it, the speakeasy group. I'm like, look, we can go to Daytona. We can have a speakeasy car. We can all be there.
I'm game.
I don't let anybody in.
I don't
let anybody in. We can do it there.
I don't know if I shared with you, but I went to high school down in Florida. And I was in Lakeland.
Oh my God, yes, you did, because that's where my husband grew up. I totally forgot that, though.
Yeah, so during my high school years, one of the yearly traditions was every February we'd go to the infield. Turn 3 is just the highest point on the track. And so I've been to the Daytona 500 several times. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool. I totally forgot that you grew up in Lakeland. And I know people in the audience could care less, but I'm glad you reminded me, because now I can go tell Tom. I know I told him when I came back, but I've forgotten. But hopefully we'll get to see each other in San Diego, and
fingers crossed.
Make sure that you let me know, and I'm sure you're going to announce it, but make sure that I see it when you announce your new programs in the year, so that I can share them with my followers and in my group and so forth.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for your time. Thanks for having us.
Talk with y'all later. And everybody out there, thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this, come back now I'm doing it Tuesday and Thursday, 7 o'clock, Facebook Live. But if you miss it, you can go to my website, LisaKipps-Brown.com, to watch past shows. And it's also on Facebook and YouTube. So thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.